when will you stop being a simile then, a son of pretend? I know you're frustrated, I can feel it, but why won't you believe it? How much you need it, well, you stop fleeing, and then you'll see, then you got your freedom. Seen it in the weather, baby, felt it in the heart of man. I give all my world to save you, heal the pain, taking it from me, you're all. I know that you can reply, and don't worry, baby, you're here. I know that you've seen it, I know you can dream it. The next step is believing you can achieve it. The rainbow's not high enough when you feel that love. It's incredible, yeah, yeah. There's a chance to take it. You're amazing. Best days of your series. You start creating when you stop being you. Find your truth, only spoken through low. Seen it in the weather, baby, felt it in the heart of man. I give all my world to save you, heal the pain, taking it from me, you're all. I know that you can reply, and don't worry,
and make sure to set it on channel 0 so you can all understand everything. Thank you. Okay, can you hear me? All right, cool. All right, so welcome to the Masterclass 3 Stories, 1 Goal, Snocks, PUMA and Tradebyte on how to create a successful marketplace business. My name is Leonie Kmoch and I'm a student at Hamburg Media School. We are the academic partner of OMR because Philipp Westermeier also studied at Hamburg Media School before he founded OMR. So let me introduce you to our 3 speakers. We have Stefan Röttgers, who is Vice President Direct to Consumer at Tradebyte. Then we have Thomas Bauknecht, who is Business Development Manager at Snocks. And last but not least, we have Jackson Fernandez, who is Head of E-commerce Europe at PUMA. So have fun.
Yeah, thank you for the nice introduction, and also big thank you for joining us today. We already saw it's nearly beer o'clock, though. Yeah, we'll aim to make it as interactive and engaging with you, so that you don't have to wait for the beer, as you will not realize that it's already beer o'clock. The session of today is all about marketplaces. So we'll aim to give you as many insights around the marketplace business as possible, and you get these insights today out of 3 totally different views. On the one hand, PUMA, founded in 1948, one of the biggest and most well-known international sports brand. Then Snocks, founded in 2016, totally different story, a digital native brand that is really kind of making a lot of noise, especially in the last couple of years. And thirdly, Tradebyte, a software and service provider, helping these brands to run a successful marketplace business. The agenda for today looks like follows. So you first quickly get an introduction to ourselves from a professional but also personal level. Secondly, we'll give you some general insights around the marketplace business, latest numbers, before we head over into the third piece, which is also the heart of today's session. So we're trying to make an interesting panel out of this group today. We have prepared 7 different topics that we're going to touch today. And also here we will enable you to be engaged with us. We'll ask you questions. So please also make sure that you have your smartphone with you, the camera open, then to further also scan QR code later afterwards. Fourthly, a quick wrap up from our side, what we expect to be next in platform business. Before it's then again all about you to ask us any question that you might have, either with the microphone or also via Slido. So without further ado, let's start with the introduction. And as I'm already speaking, I also continue. So my name is Stefan, 34 years old. I started working in digital in 2012 when I worked for Sportradar, which is one of the biggest sports data companies in the world. This is also where I had the pleasure of meeting Phil the Power Taylor, one of the best and most popular darts player of all times. Since 2015, I'm working at Tradebyte. That means I joined the company 6.5 years ago. We were rather small, so 40 to 50 people. I was responsible for many brands already as of the start. This is what you can see at the bottom in the middle. So my first e-channels day in 2016 in Munich. This event still exists. It's going to return this year in September, not in Munich. We're going abroad. We're going to London. So also happy then to see the one or other of you in London in September. And since 2019, I'm responsible for the direct-to-consumer business at Tradebyte. That means my team and I were working permanently with brands to onboard them to marketplaces, but also ensure that they can run a profitable but also a successful business with us. On the other hand, very much into sports. Thus, I'm also crossing my way, obviously, sometimes with PUMA, Jackson. And naturally, also very easy to influence. So I just received my last Snocks parcel this Saturday. So just right in time to wear it today here also on stage. Thank you for this nice customer experience again. So this is all about me. More importantly, obviously, Tradebyte, for those of you who don't know the company yet, we've been founded in 2009, so already 12.5 years on the market. Since 2016, we're part of the Zalando group, as we've also been one of the first to integrate a brand to the Zalando Partner Program. In 2021, we joined forces with our former sister company, Anatwine, and since then we are working jointly under the umbrella of Tradebyte out of 3 offices, one in Ansbach, this is our headquarter in the lovely area of Franconia, and then 2 offices in the UK, one in Cheltenham and one in London, currently with 330 employees. What we do is we kind of facilitate the new way of digital commerce. So Traditionally, yeah, we know all the wholesale business where a brand used to sell to a retailer and then directly then to a consumer. This is not our area where we're in. Our home turf is the area of direct to consumer, be it via the brand shop or especially where our heart beats and also what it's all about today, the area of direct to consumer via platform, the so-called marketplace model that a lot of brands and retailers have used over the last couple of years successfully. How does it look like? I won't go too technically, I can assure. In fact, where a brand connects one time to our system, which then enables the brand to sell on various marketplaces like the ones that you see here on this slide. We do this quite successfully. So we have at the moment 1,000 brands using our software, mainly from the fashion and lifestyle area. And these brands can sell their products on over 80 marketplaces and platforms at the moment. And this results into 10,000 channel connections, and everybody can easily count that it also means a brand is not just connected to one sales channel, but usually to at least 10 in average, depending a bit on the size of the brand, but gives a lot of brands also the opportunity to scale up their business. Enough about Tradebyte. I'll hand over now to Thomas to give us some insights around Snocks and the business at Snocks.
Thanks, Stefan. Before I introduce myself, I want to talk about Team Snocks. There are a few of my colleagues here, so thanks for joining. This is us on the right at our summer trip last year, and I love this picture because it basically shows the vibe from Snocks. We're a startup founded in 2016 in Mannheim, and we now have not only 50 plus employees, but 60 plus employees. Johannes and Felix founded a company selling invisible sneaker socks on Amazon. So basically started with Amazon FBA business. We then, 2 or 3 years later, we started our own e-com and enhanced it with performance marketing on basically now every channels. We are available on marketplaces since 2022, so now almost 2 full years. And we made net sales of 32 million euros last year, and approximately 10% are related to marketplaces. Excluded from that are the numbers from Amazon. So when we talk about marketplaces at Snocks, it's always everything except Amazon. Now we sell all basic stuff like socks, underwear, athleisure wear, basic shirts. So basically a basic fashion brand. And we're now extending to be more kind of a lifestyle brand. So we do collaborations. For example, we had a collaborations with Airwaves, the chewing gum brand. We also do a lot of events. We're doing a private event this year. We opened up our own Snocks Coffee in Mannheim. We do a lot of founder talks there. So that's that. And now, a few weeks ago, an investor joined the company. That helps us to grow even stronger and boost our internationalization even more. Yeah, that's me. I'm Thomas. I'm 35 years old. I'm business development manager at Snocks. I started in September 22 and basically was the first one to take over the marketplace business. I have a background in IT, so I did an apprenticeship a few years ago in IT. And I then studied international fashion management afterwards. And I'm super passionate about sports. I go to the gym almost every morning at 5 or 6. And I love sneakers, so it's a nice opportunity to be here with PUMA. And now I'm also handing over to Jackson.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. And maybe just for you now as an insight, why do we have 2 people on the stage? Well, we weren't really sure, you know, what could be more attractive, having PUMA or Snocks. So we thought, why just have one brand on stage if you can even have 2? So I'm really excited that Jackson said, sure, I'm going to join you. So Jackson, would be great if you can also give you some upsides about PUMA, but also who you are and what your role at PUMA is.
All right, and I think it's nice that you have like 2 different brands at the opposite end of the spectrum, which gives a very good perspective. Anyways, so a little bit of introduction about PUMA. Hopefully everyone knows us. Otherwise, the 74 years of our existence would have been a little less meaningful. So founded in 1948, we're pretty much there in every part of the world. We have 13,000 odd employees, close to 1,000 odd owned and operated stores. Yeah, so in terms of e-com, I think we're there in close to 47 odd countries, either directly or through our partners. Last year, we did close to 7 billion, 6.8 billion to be precise. We are one of the leading sports and athleisure brand in the space and primarily operate for footwear, apparel, and accessories. right? So that's a quick introduction about PUMA. Of course, I'll talk more about the e-com business model and marketplaces, and we'll love to take your questions later on. But before I proceed, maybe a little bit of introduction about myself, my background. Um, so yeah, I'm Jackson Fernandez. I head e-com for PUMA in Europe. Been with the company for close to 5.5 years now. Primarily in the digital space, in the e-commerce space. I love setting up businesses and scaling. Europe is a very important market for us. It's also a very complicated market with the .com and the complexities of the marketplaces and internationalization, etc. Yeah, so for me, I've for the last 1.5 years that I've been here, the marketplace has been a very essential part of our journey, but I've also have a lot of experience dealing with marketplaces in Asia, which also brings a very different flavor and also gives a perspective of how things are going to probably pan out also, some of the learnings. A little bit of background about myself. I'm actually a techie to start off with. Then I was also a business consultant, and I've been an entrepreneur. But more importantly, I'm an eternal learner, and that's why a session like this is so interesting for me, so that it brings so much different perspective over new innovations, etc. that's coming up. Right? Yeah.
Thank you, Jackson. Did you say an eternal lover?
No,
Did I?
I almost said that. Almost.
You know, we are a bit of a distance. I wasn't really sure. Interesting. Next time you can write. You know. Okay.
That's a big.
Good. So this is also clarified. Very nice. Yeah, but this was now all about us. Now it's a bit about you. So we also want to know who you are and especially what your background in marketplace business is. So what we ask you now to do is get out your smartphones, scan this QR code, or simply go directly on slido.com and enter the hash. And you will be redirected to answer a question which now shows up. And please give me some insights. Who of you is currently working on marketplace business, no matter out of which perspective, be it a brand? I don't have to ask you, luckily. 6, 7, 8, okay. Oh. We have specialists here. No pressure. Somebody still voting? This would now be a nice result to stop the poll.
It's a nice mix.
Wow, that's interesting to see. So 1/4 is currently not operating on marketplaces. 3/4 are already working. And obviously for everybody who clicked just yes, great choice. Hope you don't regret it. And further information why you should continue will definitely follow. And potentially these two guys can also give you some insights on how you can even improve your performance. For the ones that just clicked no, we should talk. We should talk about the reasons why you should definitely go for marketplaces. Because I mean, these numbers are kind of well known. Every second e-commerce euro currently is spent in Germany on platforms. But there's obviously a question, where does it come from? And obviously the medal has two sides. So on the one hand, since 2015, the number of marketplaces, especially in the German-speaking area, doubled. That means we've seen a lot of new marketplaces or retailers also transforming themselves from a pure retail model to a platform model, like Bräuninger, like Goertz, for instance, just in the last couple of years. But also, if you have a look at the very individual numbers, you see at Amazon, for instance, it's increasing the share of third-party sellers. Means 60%, sometimes even 70% of the sales are currently done via third-party sales and not via Amazon directly. The same more or less applies to Zalando. So Zalando has the clear ambition to be at 50% of the partner program share in 2025, coming from at the moment roughly 30%. If you just have a look also at the GMV increase that they plan, that means that the partner program of the Zalando has to increase by a factor of 5 over the course of 5 years. As I said, I think the first brands on the partner program were launched in 2012. So you see really the maturity level that partner program has already, but also the aggressive growth plans, for instance, from Zalando. And also if you look abroad to Switzerland, so just cross one border, with Galaxus you also see there a platform which is really driving the third-party sales. So also there you see that between 2019 and 2020 they more or less nearly doubled the numbers of the marketplace. But as I said, it's also two parts of the two sides of the medal. Just to add on this maybe, this is a bit the overview of marketplaces that we collaborate with at the moment. And this logo wall would have looked totally different in 2015, 2016, but also 2020, for instance. So just over the course of the last couple of years, especially in the German-speaking area, with Van Graaf, with Goertz, with Bräuninger, but also beyond, like Inno in Switzerland, for in Belgium, for instance, we've seen a lot of new marketplaces rising up. Traditional retailer who decided that obviously there are a lot of reasons to go for marketplace business, be it the scalability, more attractive assortment for the end consumers, for instance. So yeah, a nice logo wall, as I said, 80 at the moment on our side, but if we just look beyond, there's also so much further areas that we are, for instance, currently not tackling yet. Now coming to the second side of the medal, obviously we're also welcoming a lot of new sellers. Thomas said, hey, we just joined in 2020, so there are currently 40% new sellers on a yearly basis joining the marketplace model. And also here, if we have a look at the individual numbers, there are a lot of success stories at the moment out there. And they're partially also allocated to the marketplace business, which is part of the direct-to-consumer business of many, many big brands, but also smaller ones. We at the moment work with, as I said, 1,000 brands. And if we just look at the middle with Snocks and PUMA, we obviously have today 2 representatives out of totally different segments, also with a totally different background. I think this is also the beauty of this model, that it's a very diversified and attractive business for brands that just started their business or more or less start their business already on marketplaces, while others shift more and more from a traditional wholesale model to a direct-to-consumer business where marketplace has to be an essential part of. So now moving further to the area of panel, so I'm happy now that we can start the hopefully nice Q&A or also the engaging session between the 3 of us. So we start now with the panel discussions, but before we do this, obviously again, the question goes out to you. So we believe that obviously we're not yet at the end. So yeah, marketplace has a certain maturity level, but I personally think that nearly nobody is at 100%. But the question now goes out to you. If you just grade your current marketplace business, and we've seen that 3 out of 4 of you work on marketplace yet, which school grade would you give your marketplace business at the moment? In a German school grade model, so 1 is very good and 6 is not so good.
You don't have to vote, no?
You don't have to vote? But it would be interesting. Maybe we can use the meantime that you tell us quickly which grade you would give yourself.
Probably 3.
3? Thomas?
I would be more optimistic and give us a 2.
Okay. But still a lot of potential to improve, huh? 6 is very bad. I mean, if we translate now this result into the school time, it's okay, can be better, but you make it to the next round, right? 76, I think we had over 100 last time, right? Okay, nonetheless, 1/3 says we on the 3, that means totally on the average, followed by 2 and 4, and I think this is what I also just mentioned. There are a lot of areas to improve, and these 7 questions have been a bit the ones that we identified where we say, okay, these are areas that brands can improve to in order to have a more successful business. So we'll talk now about in this panel around the right setup, a bit where to play. So do I sell on my own.com or do I also sell marketplaces? What do I sell? What about product content? So everything around product description, media, followed by beyond borders. So what is besides Germany or the German-speaking area interesting for me, followed a bit by the marketing aspect and obviously a bit the area of competition. So how can I diversify myself on marketplaces? So ready to go? Perfect, then let's kick it off. The first topic, it's all about the right setup. So obviously, for everybody who used to be working in a B2B-driven model, the number of involved systems was rather straightforward. So in this case, I think we have 4 different systems that are needed to run a B2B model. In the D2C area, this is totally different. So we have a much more complex system architecture, but also looking at the skill set of employee that we need, it's totally different to a B2B model. So my first question would go to you, Jackson. So how does the setup of PUMA look like at the moment when it comes to marketplace business?
Yeah, so I think we've evolved quite a bit in our journey from a marketplace perspective. But if I reflect back to about 6-7 years back when we were starting on this journey, right? If I had to redo it again, some of the key questions that needs to be asked is, what is the overall strategy? What do you need to achieve from the marketplaces? Like, how does it pan out in your distribution strategy from a product perspective? And then there are three basic questions that need to be answered based on which you can decide what that setup needs to look at, right? So one is, what's your inventory strategy? What do you want to sell on the platforms, right? The second is on the content, which is essentially about if you have a .com or if you, in the future, want to do a .com play, and how do you want to sell your product on the platform from a content strategy. So that's second most important. And third is from a fulfillment perspective. What's that infrastructure that you want to build? And don't just think about that point of time, think 5-10 years in advance, and then decide what is that infrastructure going to look at. Because many times we make the mistake of starting small and easy and putting in the systems there, but quickly in 3 or 4 years' time, we realize that the system is not scalable. So hence you need to have your front-end systems, your connector systems, your middleware, your OMS and WMS, etc., able to scale up for the future. And you need reliable partners who can be in the journey with you. So that's very, very important. From our setup perspective, of course, we have a .com platform, which is on the SFCC cloud. Then we have a bunch of marketplaces, all integrated via Tradebyte. We have a PIM systems. Then we have the OMS, the WMS, and the ERP system. So standard structure. Pretty much all the companies who operate will have that structure, but it depends upon the flexibility that you build into the system and the kind of partners that you build.
Yeah. Thank you. Thomas, maybe from your side, we heard now, I didn't count well, but I think 6 to 7 roughly, or even more. Even more, okay. How does it look like on the Snocks side?
I think almost the same, but when I started like 2 years ago, we basically had Shopify for our own e-com, and then we did Amazon basically only FBA selling, so we just put the pallets in the Amazon warehouse, and that was it. So when we started doing marketplaces, we had like this Shopify plugin, which wasn't really like working good on a technical side. And then also on like looking at the future, what Jackson said, like it didn't support many marketplaces. We started onboarding Otto through that plugin. And there were like a lot of technical issues, like we had to put in the tracking and return tracking numbers like manually for each order, and that's okay if you sell like 10 or 20 orders a day, but once you scale, once you put on ad spend, then it's just like too much to handle, like to put it on manually. And that's when we went out and looked for other integrated tools, and that's when we found Tradebyte. And for us, it was also super important to not just only sell on Otto and back in the days in like Real and Kaufland, but also to see like what Tradebyte offers. Like we wanted to sell on Zalando, About You, all the other marketplaces. And that was also the main reason for us to choose Tradebyte, because we could see that from a technical side and also like the supported marketplaces, this was like ready for the future. And then we switched our own warehouse to like a logistics provider in March 2021 last year. And at the same time, we onboarded on Zalando like 1 month later from April. So we also had like a few glitches there with the logistics provider and like the whole new setup, not only on the marketplaces side, but only on the e-com side as well. But now like going through that process and like learning a lot, like what do we need for the marketplaces, what's different to doing like pure e-com business with your own warehouse. That's where we set up all these different systems, like extending our PIM system with more information, more data into it. Our supply chain has like a totally different system now. We are now building up like a business intelligent data warehouse to just get all the data we're getting from all the different channels. So it was kind of like learning and building through this journey to set up all these systems. We still have a way to go, but I think for now we're really good set.
So you both just changed the setup or kind of the systems that are involved. Do you plan further changes in the near future, or do you think now it's on a level where, say, scalable business and further growth is also possible with the current setup?
I think we have to implement like some more tools or systems to really scale, like not for now, this or next year, but if you look like 2 or 3 years in the future. And I think there's, as I said, like BI is like really a big thing for us. And also the whole CRM PIM systems, it's kind of basic for now. So we are looking, kind of talking about what tools can like help us do that kind of stuff.
For us, again, I think it's easier to change when the business is small. Once you start growing, the ability to actually change systems becomes more and more tougher because you've invested so much time, energy, data into it, and then meandering a large ship becomes very tough. So I think it's important to take the calls early on and make the right decisions then. But of course, the market changes, the capability changes, so you have to be prepared for it. But in our side, I think no big changes. Of course, small tweaks and tools, etc., in the value chain. That happens every year or very frequently. Yeah.
Okay, good. Maybe another question also on the setup, because part of the setup is also the team behind. So how is your team currently structured? You know, what are the roles that you have in your teams? Maybe you can give us some insights, starting first with you, Thomas.
When I started, basically there was no team existing.
You are the team.
I'm the team. No, so we basically have the sales split like on a general level between Amazon and online shop. Online shop includes like all the performance marketing and all other channels which are directly pushing sales into e-com. And now we have like as a third pillar, we have like, we call it alternative marketplaces because we have Amazon separately and we start with Amazon and it's still a marketplace, but for us it's like the Amazon and all the rest is alternative marketplaces. And I started as a business development manager. We hired a colleague last year. We're now hiring 2 or 3 people more this year. So we are basically extending like all the teams, but also the marketplace team because that's where we're growing super strong.
Yeah, for us, it's a little different also because it's matured quite a bit. So the way we have set up is more like a matrix organization. We see that a lot of underlying structures and processes are similar, right? Where the business teams are quite separated, and then you need to have dedicated focus on certain marketplaces. So that's separated out. So those are the verticals, whether it is brand.com or certain marketplaces from an account management and from a merchandising or a business perspective. But the underlying processes, whether it be content or experience or fulfillment, demand generation, right, or support, all those are horizontals that the team is spread across or focused on both the businesses. So that way we're able to take best practices of one platform to the other and so on. So that's the way we're structured.
Okay, good. So a lot of systems, a lot of different opportunities to start this D2C business, but also to scale it up. Let's move further to the area of where to play, because obviously there's always a discussion around where do I sell my products. Internal teams might also have fear of losing sales, for instance, to another sales channel. So I think you already named a bit, but how does your digital sales channel mix look like at the moment, Thomas? I mean, you already said it's Amazon, it's the alternative marketplaces, but maybe give us some insights on what do you do at the moment digitally?
So yeah, that's basically Amazon, where we're selling in Amazon Germany and all the European countries. We just hired a new colleague to take over all the European countries. We're hiring someone who's doing all the ads for Amazon as well. Then we have like the whole online shop team, which includes like all the colleagues that are doing all the technical stuff, Shopify developers. We have colleagues who are doing all the performance marketing channels. So we have dedicated people doing Facebook ads, Google ads, TikTok ads. We have people for WhatsApp. We have a whole group of influence and partner marketing. So that's all like the people who are doing sales that directly go into our own e-com. And then we have the marketplace business side, where we have all the marketplaces channels except Amazon, as I said. where we have the different channels. We are now currently live in Zalando, About You, Otto, Limango, and eBay, but that's another story. And yeah, and as we can see it, I mean, we are growing very strong. Our achieved growth for this year is 60%. So for now, we are growing super strong in all channels, and we are not fearing that someone else is taking something from another person or another channel.
So also internally, sorry, just to add, so also internally there are no fears of losing sales because you also don't have this retail wholesale relationship, right?
Now, for us, the good part is that we are like a D2C brand and started as a D2C brand. So we don't have any kind of wholesalers or other business partners that are already selling on Zalando or on other platforms where we are taking like kind of the sales. So for us, it's just like expanding the whole pie for Snocks and doing more sales in every department or on every channel instead of shifting the sales from one channel to another.
Jackson.
It's easier when you're digital first, right?
Different story, or?
Different story. Yeah, but I think again, it's a part of the overall strategy. I think these three channels very important, and also they have a different play in the overall structure, right? And in some sense, they complement each other, especially on the .com and the marketplaces side, right? Our proposition on the .com is very different, right? We need to do the brand selling, right? Selling the stories, the aspirations, etc., building the loyalty on the platform. Whereas on the marketplaces, it's more about being in the consideration set of the consumer. The wholesale play is very different. The marketplace business, in a sense, complements that because then we are able to expand the assortment width, but also be a replenishment model so that we can be faster to the consumers, etc. and stuff. So I think it's a nice interplay between the three. And again, if you're thinking about your overall strategy, you need to play these cards really well, right? Yeah.
Okay. Do you see any cannibalization between these channels? So do you see any shift of consumers from one channel to another?
I think the consumers are always shifting, right? And the people move from marketplaces to .com, vice versa. And it is very difficult to stop it. I think what we need to solve for is be where the consumers are there and provide them with superlative experience, right? And if you do that, irrespective of whether they're coming from .com or marketplaces, it's the same. We would love to have them in .com because we can do a lot more brand selling and making them stick to the platform. But marketplaces are also super important from a competitive perspective, from a consideration perspective, right?
Yeah, I would second that. I mean, consumers are always shifting. Sometimes it may be hard to measure, like if they're shifting from your own e-com to another marketplace or vice versa. For us, it's super important to be on the platform or on the marketplace where the consumers are. I mean, if we would be narrow-minded and not sell on Zalando or anywhere, then the consumers maybe would shift anyway because they're a Zalando Plus member or anything else. But then there's like the competitors on that platform. So we would rather have our consumers shifting to another marketplace than shifting to the competitors.
Okay, makes sense. Part of our business is also kind of this matchmaking process. So yeah, create a match between you as a brand, but also the marketplace on the other hand. So give me some insights around what does a marketplace need to bring to you from an argumentation perspective to convince you that it's the right fit for you? What are the metrics that are you looking for when you decide to go for new marketplace or not?
I mean, for us, it's like we started top to bottom, just like from the biggest one, like the overall sales, how much sales is made in the marketplace business on that platform. And for us, it's super interesting how much sales is made for our product categories, because that whole underwear, socks categories is always like a smaller part. For example, if you look at the big two like Zalando and About You, they make a lot of money, they make a lot of sales, but most of that is more like those fashion textile kind of sales. So for us, it's super interesting how much of that we could basically make. Then it's also like how easy it is to sell on that platform. Like, are there any kind of contract issues? Like, how much is the fees we have to pay? Do we have to wait, or do we have to like limit a certain amount of SKUs or products? That's also something, because can we easily onboard it via our current tools we have, and that's the comfort of Tradebyte, because they support like so many different marketplaces. And also then if the consumers on the marketplaces are the right consumers for us. I mean, basically everyone needs underwear and socks, so for us it's super interesting to try out different marketplaces. Otto, for example, has like an older consumer base. Limango is more like the younger family consumer base. So for us it's super interesting to like diversify to different consumers we don't have right now with our current setup.
I can actually echo the same sentiment for us because we also have a very strong .com play. Right, we are there in 27 European countries. For us, the first question that we ask is this a new consumer segment that we are tapping into, right? Is this a different set of consumer, different market? And if the answer is yes, then we proceed forward. And proceeding forward essentially is seeing whether there's a business case, right? And the business case is not just about top line, but also effective bottom line. Because I think many times in the urge to expand business, we forget about the profitability. And that's the question we ask maybe after a year or two of the business, when we say, oh gosh, the business is not profitable. And then if you're scaling fast with an unprofitable business, it can hurt you really bad, right? So that's the second most. And the third questions are about more operational, like the technical setup. Is the model in line with the existing model that you have? You do have to meander a far further away from your existing setup. How easy is it to manage, etc.? What is the investment, initial investment and running cost for maintaining the marketplace, right? Because for us, the philosophy till now has been we do less, but we go deep with the marketplaces. The alternate strategy could also be you spread wide and thin, but just be careful when you're spreading wide and thin that you don't erode your margins and make it super difficult to manage, right? So, yeah.
How much does a sales channel cost you, just roughly?
Cost in the sense from a profitability perspective, or
ideally profitability, but if you can also give us some further information around people, investment, all these things would be interesting.
Yeah, so I think there is of course a lot of initial investment from an integration perspective, and here I allude to the initial comment that I made is how the initial setup, like if you have a very complicated setup, then getting a new marketplaces, depending upon how complex their setup, the integration could probably range from 2 to 6 months, right? And then it's not really efficient. So there's a significant amount of program management cost in taking the platform live. And then post that, I think if you need to do a really good job, right, and assuming that the horizontal infrastructure exists from a content, from a logistics perspective, then account management itself doing a good job, you need at least 1 or 2 people to really leverage on the platform. Otherwise, it'll be just switch on and then you put your products and you just pray that things sell, right? But that's not doing justice to the platform.
This is where the school grade 4 and 5 comes up then, right?
Yeah, and there's so much more stuff that we need to do, right? Yeah.
Can you give me insights on that?
I mean, I can give you exact numbers. We have like profit-wise roughly 2-digit numbers, but higher 2-digit numbers, so that's really profitable for us when we're talking about new customers. I would also say that like the investment costs for like setup fees, running fees, like monthly fees, or like just the percentage of the sales, that's also taking into consideration. So there are a few marketplaces, they take like 15% or something. The others take like up to 25. So that's like a lot of difference there. But then also what Jackson said, like just pushing the products out, then you have to put then you have the products on the marketplace. But if no one is maintaining the marketplaces, like adapting the content, adapting the images, like having a look at all the marketing spend, etc., and looking if everything is set up all right, then you're not doing a good marketplace business. You're just putting the products out, but not like selling at the highest you could.
Okay, cool. Let's move further to the, I think it's third part, which is a bit the area of what to sell, because obviously kind of the beauty of digital is that you can sell nearly everything anywhere, as there are nearly no restriction or limitations. Yeah, a couple of retailers, luckily just a very low amount of retailers and platforms provide dedicated slots per brand where just say, okay, you're allowed to list 200 SKUs, but most of them don't. So you have more or less the full assortment that you could, in theory, sell. However, out of also the conversations we had with our brands, some do not, because obviously some price points are not profitable in marketplaces, but there are also some further reasons on limiting products to the own.com or also delaying it. So maybe, Jackson, you can tell us a bit about what is your product strategy? Do you sell everything anywhere, or do you kind of really dedicate it to certain products?
Yeah, so I think we have a single inventory strategy. So essentially, whatever inventory is available for e-com is available for all marketplaces theoretically. But that's not what we would like to do, because we have a widespread distribution channel, right? We have PUMA.com, we have wholesale business, and the marketplaces. And within the marketplaces also, each of the marketplaces bring their key competencies or their distribution strategies. Like, what is the kind of audience that they reach out to? So based on this play, there is a different set of assortment. Of course, there can be intersecting sets for each of the marketplaces, right? So we don't give the full assortment. It could be possible that we don't give the full assortment, right? But that's from the outside in assortment strategy. There's also, with internationalization, the look at profitability, whether it makes sense to sell a particular product on a particular marketplace in a particular country, right? And that would determine whether when an article can be live or not in a particular marketplace. And with your tool, with Product Hub, we can easily go up and switch off, switch on, and see whether it makes sense to sell it and stuff. So I think it is, we have to have a differentiated strategy, otherwise it doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, for us it's kind of different. We are basically pushing the whole product assortment to every channel. It's basically because our assortment is like way smaller. We have like 40 to 50 products now, and for us it doesn't make sense to like don't sell anything on the current marketplaces we're selling on. I think in the future we have to diversify even more, because there will be different products for different channels. Right now we are talking with one marketplace that's more into sport products. So for example, our women underwear with lace is not suitable for that kind of sport product, so they would exclude that products for us. And I think if we go more into the different marketplaces and also making new products, maybe exclusive marketplace products, we would diversify even more. Internationally, we are doing a different strategy, because for Zalando, we're using Zalando fulfillment. I think we are getting to that later on, as always. But we had to make adaptations to the packaging and then to the labeling. So basically, we just chose the best sellers from our product. So like the best-selling products and the best-selling colors, and send them to Zalando fulfillment to not produce every article we have into like a new country where we don't have any experience what we're selling, but we would know that black boxer shorts are also selling in like France or Spain.
Maybe just a further topic on this, because I mean, if you are using a lot of apps, for instance, you permanently get push notifications about hot drops or whatever. Also in the sports industry, I think some players are very, very aggressive in this area and permanently also playing around with dedicated days, also communicating up front that on a day you got a new product to buy. Is this also something that you can imagine also using it already on the marketplaces? Or is it more like depends a bit when the product gets accepted and so on?
So the question is whether we have promotions on marketplaces or brand days.
Exactly, yeah. Like you would also do it on your own PUMA.com.
Yeah.
Is it possible to also do this on marketplaces?
Yeah, I think it depends upon the kind of relationship and the scale of business. It's possible that we can do events on platforms that push certain inventory or do certain promotions. Going forward, I think a lot of this will happen, and because that's going to be the way forward, right? Where you figure out that in a particular point of sale, there's a particular set of products that need to be pushed, and then we work with the marketplaces to create that campaign, push marketing money behind it, and then create that kind of event, right? It's a phenomenon that's not happened too much in the past, but increasingly we're doing it at this point of time. But way forward.
Okay. Thomas, any exclusivity, any hot drops from Snocks on Zalando soon, or?
Not right now. Basically, all the exclusive products or the hot drops we are directing to the e-com. Like I said before, we do collaborations. We had like the Airwaves collaboration. We did socks with the influencer July Lean. So we can only do or kind of like to do the whole activation process, like the whole performance marketing, branding marketing, etc., and then direct the sales to the e-com, because then we can also measure it better. So when we do this kind of exclusive hot drops, we just launch it in the own e-com, and if there's any stock left, we push it like the week after to the marketplaces as well. If we're talking about normal product launches, like new colors or new products, we basically try to launch them. We launch products or new colors every Saturday, so we basically try to launch them at the same day. For some marketplaces it works. You can just put like the new colors in, and then it's online the next day. Some marketplaces take like 2 to 3 leading days more, but that's not an issue right now because it's nothing like that's out of the ordinary.
But I think it results then into the area that a marketplace gets the products later than your own .com might have it, because the onboarding process on the marketplace takes longer, for instance, and you have less control over it, or?
Yeah, but if we already know that the onboarding process takes longer, we can like prepare it like beforehand. And if we launch something on Saturday, then we already push it to the marketplaces on Wednesday. And if it's online Friday evening before the shop and it's just a new color, then it's not that kind of a big issue. But if we are promoting like, okay, we got this new collaboration with brand XYZ, and we have it online on Zalando before we have it on the shop and people are waiting on the shop like with the countdown, then it would be an issue.
Yeah, for me, a big topic, especially for the retailer side or marketplace side, to get this somehow solved, that you can onboard products beforehand and tell them, hey, I want to have it live on Monday, and I can already do this on Friday and don't have to work Sunday evening to get it activated.
What we basically did before, like we onboarded until it's live, and then we just like manually set the inventory to 0. But then you have to be like really super quick and just like press F5 all the time to reload, see once it's online, and then deactivate it straight away.
And then you get the automated export with a stock of 100, and then you're live again, or? Yeah. Okay, great. Let's move further to the next topic, which is a bit more catching the eyes of the end consumer. It's product, content, and media. I mean, marketing people sometimes tend to claim, yeah, marketplace, it all looks the same. But I think, especially now the last 1 or 2 years, the area of product content is getting much more important. So obviously, everybody has to fulfill the duty of providing all the information that a marketplace might need, and these requirements heavily depend on the marketplace setup. So you have some just needing, I don't know, 5 information, that's fine. The next one really requires 20 to 30. But how does it look like on your end? Do you just kind of fulfill what the marketplace needs and then you're fine with listing, or also, do you also see opportunities to improve your listings, especially on these kind of closed marketplaces now that we're talking about? So not, I mean, Amazon is clear, but how does it look like on the closed ones like About You, like Zalando, and so on?
I think content is a very important piece, and I think that's the one of the next level of opportunities. The current state that we are in, I think we many times struggle to even get to what the marketplace requirements are, right? And the marketplace requirements right now are bare minimum, I would say. What we also need is some kind of insights back from the marketplace, is how a particular kind of content is doing right on the platform. Like if we have A+ kind of content, does it really improve the conversion rate on the site? Some of this data is not transparent enough, not on all platforms and stuff. And many of the times on platforms like About You, etc., a lot of this experience is controlled by the platform, right? So we'll have to work very closely with them to see alternate formats of content, do all these A/B tests, etc. and stuff. But with the wide assortment that we have at this point of time, many times we just try to get to the basic minimum. The next step for us is then going one step above and providing that superlative content, and then doing and seeing whether there is an uplift because of it. Otherwise, it will be all these effort and goodness for nothing, right? So we have to be super incisive, like we are on .com.
How would you grade your product content on a level from 1 to 10? 10, very, very good.
Yeah.
1 is okay-ish.
Yeah, so it is definitely lower than .com because we don't have the levers on it. So I would again say 5 or 6, right? I would really love to have more flexibility on the platform where we can then develop all this content and then also deliver. Otherwise, you develop all this good content, but the content just resides on the .com side, and you cannot fructify it on the marketplaces, right?
Yeah, but I think this is definitely kind of the next maturity level of, especially of the marketplace business, because we see at the moment, I think that nearly every second product gets rejected at first attempt. Yeah. And this is, I mean, we're talking now about optimization of content, but the first step is, hey, please get it online. Yeah,
exactly. For us, going live is more important than, so we just get to the basics first, and then is about building all the nice content on top of it. So.
Thomas, Snocks side.
Yeah, I definitely like it when the error list in Tradebyte is empty and there's no error shown. So for us, we really had to also kind of do that shift, because in our own online shop and Amazon, we can do whatever we want. So even Amazon is a marketplace. You can basically upload any picture you want. You can put text, USPs on pictures. You can do all the Amazon Plus content. So you're really free to like sell the product with all that additional information. And as Otto was one of the first marketplaces, we really had to kind of shift that mindset, because we just put the same pictures in there, and then they told us, no, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that. You cannot write that in the bullet points, your description is too long or whatever. But then we noticed that it works differently. For example, in auto, there are like different attributes for each category or each product. And if you fill that out like really consistent and really put in the correct information and not just like bullshit in there, then you also get like an uplift from the auto because you deliver more information to the consumers. And the consumer can also filter it more, like may it be color, may it be length of the socks or whatever. So there's like the positive side of it, that once you get all that information, once you talk to product development, etc., and you put all that information together, you have it all in the system, and then you can also use it on all the other marketplaces that don't have it as a mandatory information, but you have it in the system anyway. So in Tradebyte, you can just map it through, and then it's like in all other marketplaces. And for the pictures, we are doing kind of additional photo shoots for the pictures. So our photographer is always doing extra pictures for me, because there's or not for me, but for the marketplaces. But there's different requirements. So we need certain kind of angles. We need certain kind of backgrounds. There's not anything allowed in the background. And we really try to deliver more pictures to the consumers, but because like once you scroll through the whole underwear, socks, accessories assortment on the marketplaces, it's only one picture because that's mandatory. But for now, we want to actually deliver more to the consumer, that he can see it like from all of the angles, from underneath, that he can see like how the material is, etc. So I think that's an advantage for us for now.
Are you investing a lot of time at the moment into the content optimization? And can you also somehow measure the improvements you've done when it comes then to click-through rates, for instance, or?
I mean, for us, like, it was a lot of investment in the beginning. We have a lot of new colors, so the whole product data is the same for all the colors, so we don't have to adapt a lot for that. It's hard to measure all of that data because most of the times you cannot really export all of the data, and you have to manually click through all of the backends. We try to track conversion rates, like once we change something in the marketplaces. For example, now we have that sizing information, like once runs a size bigger or smaller, etc. And then once we change that, we track the conversion rate over the following weeks and see, or the return rates after that, to see if it makes a difference or not. But I think the hardest part is not like changing something, but the tracking of the information, because it's really hard to get all the information out of the system and also automatically, so you don't have to scroll through it manually and copy paste it into random Excel lists or whatever.
Yeah, for us also, I think the .com platform works as a test box for us. So we're investing a lot of time and energy into building all this content, and we played first on the .com side, do all the measurements, precisely because all the signals are not really clear from the marketplace side. So once we know that something works on the .com, we try to emulate it on the marketplace side. Yeah.
Cool. Let's move forward to the next topic, which is all about internationalization. I mean, obviously, marketplaces provide with the beauty of providing brands the opportunity to access new target groups, but also totally new countries. I mean, this even without a big investment into own online shops, translation, customer service, or whatever comes in, and potentially even marketing budgets that might be extremely high to build up a real, also good view then on these specific pages. Personally, we differentiate on the one hand between kind of local heroes, so La Redoute in France, bol.com in the Netherlands, Allegro in Poland, for instance, so the ones that really have a strong presence in just one country. While on the other hand, you have kind of these European giants like Zalando, Amazon, About You, enabling you to sell on different countries, minimum of 5 usually. So you both sell through these giants internationally, but also on local heroes, right?
Yeah, for us, I think the journey has been a little different. We went international first on .com, so we already on the 27 European countries, and the marketplace approach has been first we go with the pan-European giants, because it's from an account management perspective and a focus perspective, it is a lot easier, right? Once that's through and we get to a scale, then we go to the local heroes, etc. So that's been the journey that we want to take. Precisely because if we are on a marketplace, we need to win, we need to give the right kind of investment, time, energy, etc. and stuff. Yeah. Different route.
Yeah, for us, it's Not the same. Basically, we are selling in Amazon in all of the European countries. And we now started in April selling on Zalando France, Italy, Netherlands, and Spain. And that's also something we already had the experience from Amazon, so we knew like which countries are working good with our products. So we chose the same countries for Zalando, and we are now expanding the Zalando markets because it's so easy to scale through Tradebyte, through Zalando fulfillment. We want to also do the local heroes because I think it's super, super interesting. For example, Amazon Netherlands is not that big as in other countries, but Bol is super, super big. So for us, currently, Zalando Netherlands works better than Amazon, but I think Bol would even work better, but it's harder to onboard those channels because you have to maintain it afterwards as well. And for Zalando, you have it all in the system, you get it all translated automatically. So for us now, the strategy is we already are live in Amazon, we scale Zalando, About You, etc., like the big players. And then we are live. Once we are live on all those, we can scale our own e-com. So we want to go live in France for our own e-com next year. We are currently live in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And then, like at the same time, we are going live in the own e-com. We also want to target like the whole local heroes, like Allegro, Bol, and the other ones.
But that means that you first go on in a specific country via the marketplaces like Amazon and Zalando for France, for instance, and if that works out, then invest into marketing, into translation, customer support, but also the delivery part, which is for France and obviously on your own own online shop has also to be done by you, right?
Yeah, that's correct. The logistics is like a different part. If you do it, we are their own e-com, and also the whole what you said, like translating all the website, having like a local speaking customer service, etc. So that's a huge investment block. And if you just go into a randomly country like Spain with your own e-com where you don't have that brand awareness, at least for us, I think it's different for PUMA because they have like all the offline outlets, etc. But we are very strong in Germany for brand awareness, but maybe we are not that strong in Spain or France. So we can kind of also build that brand awareness through the marketplaces, and then once we are like in people's minds, we can start the e-com.
How do you do these internationalizations? Because obviously it's a bit difficult, right? Out of Germany to deliver to France, for instance, is still okay-ish, but if you then go to, I don't know, for instance, the Scandinavian countries, it gets difficult. And obviously a lot of platforms have seen this as a huge opportunity. Also, if you think about Amazon with FBA, if you think about Zalando with ZFS, they provide logistical services, for instance, to brands. So do you also use these opportunities and have then also kind of a stock split between your own warehouse and the fulfillment centers of the platform? Is this something you use currently? I mean, you said it already.
Yeah, if I can just finish that. So we use Amazon FBA for all countries. In Zalando, we are our own logistics in Germany and Austria and use it for all the European countries. And that's something what's really working good because first you can scale really good and then you don't have all the logistics issues. For all the marketplaces, you have like the KPIs that you have to hold. So Zalando wants 95% delivery time in 4 working days. And we can do that in Germany and Austria, and maybe Switzerland and France would also be possible. But as you said, like once you go into the Scandinavics, then it's just like impossible if you don't have like an own logistics network, I would say, or like own warehouses or like a really strong logistics partner.
Yes, so for us, it's a little different again. I think I'm always scared when we have to like split inventory because it creates more and more inefficient pools, right? And it is a function of the assortment width and the depth, right? So in the category that we play, every time we have different pools of inventory that do not talk and aggregate, there is a big risk. And that's why we have been a little lukewarm to the whole idea of third-party fulfillment centers, et cetera, and stuff. So for us, it's all our delivery network so that there's one single large pool of inventory that addresses all the selling channels. Yeah. But of course, we will experiment with the new platforms that come up, but we have to be super careful how we approach that.
Okay. Next topic on the list is all around product listing, marketing, obviously, because we also just named a couple of platforms that provide, besides logistical service, also the opportunity to book ads. I mean, this is a common thing on Amazon already, but also Zalando, About You, Auto, and so on. You have the opportunity to increase your visibility also by paying a certain budget. So how important do you see at the moment this retail media or the marketing on platform as a success factor also for your marketplace business at the moment?
So for us, marketplaces increasingly become mainstream from a marketing channel mix perspective, right? So initially it was about listing and then taking the initial momentum of the marketplace and then getting to a certain scale. But after reaching a certain scale, you realize that there is opportunities to have from a marketing perspective, especially at the early days, the ROI that you get from some of these marketplaces as marketing channels significantly higher than what you would probably get on, say, a Facebook or a Google, because the consumer is further down in the funnel, right? And while these opportunities exist, I think it's a great chance to actually leverage on it. And for us, the focus is clear. It's a key part of our marketing approach and mainstream, right? And last couple of years, it's scaled up quite significantly, especially on the platforms that are providing this. And increasingly, we are seeing that the platforms are also providing us with the tools to be more incisive and to be more, to have a better look into what we are doing, and almost the same kind of flexibility like a Google or a Facebook would provide. Yeah.
For us, it's also like a super strong opportunity. We're really coming from that performance marketing kind of perspective. So when we started, or when Felix and Johannes started on Amazon, it was like all about Amazon performance, Amazon ads, and also with the own e-com, like the whole Facebook, Google, etc. ads. So when we onboard to a new marketplace, we all, like most of the time, we do at the same time start with ad spend as well. We normally use sponsored product ads because that's like the most profitable one, the most like working one. I think there's like a lot of opportunity for the marketplaces as well to extend like that product range. Once you've worked like in the Amazon Ad Manager or Facebook Ad Manager and you go to the marketplaces, it's like horrific, because for some you have to fill out Excel lists and put in like manual SKUs and CPC prices. Some have now changed that to like own ad managers, which are kind of like in its infancy as well. So you basically, instead of manually putting in it in the Google Sheets, you put it into the ad manager, but you get reportings like once a week instead of it daily in the dashboard. So I think there's also like a huge opportunity to like do more in these tools and not only help the sellers, but also the marketplaces itself to like push more sales through ads.
Yeah, and I think you both mentioned a very important topic, because I mean the beauty of a system like ours or any other is that ideally you just log in there, you do the product content mapping and all these things, and then it goes out to the marketplaces and you don't have to care about anything. Now you have to log in, I would say nearly daily, into the UI, and is that direct UI from Zalando, from Amazon, from About You, from Otto. That means a lot of time invest just for allocating marketing ads and all these things. Do you really do this, or do you say, I just focus on the top 80% and leave the other 20% out, or how do you see it? Because at the moment, there's unfortunately no real way of centrally steering this information.
I mean, you only get the reports weekly, so you don't have to do it daily. It's not that we adjust like the marketing spends on a daily basis, because once you get the reports on Monday and then you change it on Tuesday or Wednesday, you have to wait another week until you get like a full week of reporting. So we look through it like once a week on all of the marketplaces. But we also do have kind of a different approach. We have like campaigns for our best sellers on some marketplaces, split in between like socks and underwear. And then like on the marketplaces where we have like the ad manager opportunity, we just have like this basic campaign running, like which is working, as I said, black boxer shorts, black, white, gray socks, where we know it's working, where we know we have good ROS and all the others, good sales. And then we have like a third campaign where we just like try and test new products, where we put in like the new products and new colors. And that's where we like have to focus more to see like, are we wasting money on some ads, or are we generating a lot of sales on some products or articles? And then for us, it's also super important to like exchange that information through all the channels. Like what's working on Amazon, like what's working on Amazon in France or in Spain, that's like where we exchange the information, or like which Facebook ads are performing like super good, like which creatives or which products, which we then also use on the marketplaces as well, because we already have that kind of data from other channels where we can use and say, okay, if we are selling black boxer shorts through Amazon in France, then we maybe sell them through Zalando in France as well.
I think very similar approach, right? We have a mix of always-on campaigns and then specific campaigns, because also the teams are centralized. There's a lot of knowledge sharing happening between the platforms and stuff. Yeah.
Then let's move forward to the magic number 7, also the last success criteria for this session. But it's also, to be honest, a really open question. So, I mean, we discussed many new players are joining. On the one hand, challenges, but also really big companies shifting more and more to direct to consumer. So, how do you diversify? How can you make sure that the PUMA, respectively Snocks DNA, is also kind of represented on the marketplaces? Is there any kind of hidden secret that can also spoiler?
I cannot share the hidden secrets, of course. But for us, it's super important to see it like as an overall picture for the whole branding, like building that Snocks brand, like putting more emotion into it. And we try to use the same language in terms of creatives, in terms of ads, when we do like the bigger sales events. So for example, we had like that spring sales event in during Easter weekend, and we had that super nice setup in our photo studio with like those orange paper tulips, and then we use that creatives through all channels. So if you go on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Zalando, About You, Otto, or wherever, like that weekend, it's just orange and it's just Snocks. So we try to create like that overall branding that it's visible for the users. So maybe they go on Instagram, see our ad, and don't click on it and don't buy on the eShop, but they go on Zalando because they need a new, I don't know, wedding dress or whatever, and then they see our ad again, and then they click on it because they've seen it before. So I think like just using the same kind of brand language over all channels is super important. And then we also try to use the same language in terms of pictures, so that we don't have like one picture looking to the left or to the right. We use the same models, like that you have that kind of Snocks model that you can like see and like remember.
Yeah, so for us, again, the way we are approaching it is, horses for courses. So there is certain strength of a particular marketplace in a particular country, and we need to ensure that we are playing to that strength, right? And from a content perspective, from a fulfillment perspective, from an inventory perspective, we need to do it right in each of these marketplaces, and that's the approach that we are trying to follow. Yeah.
Good. Woo. Was good, was intense. So the 7 topics are covered. Nonetheless, we obviously also want to speak a bit about what's next. So dreaming big, Jackson, Thomas, what would you expect to be the next step in the marketplace business? Is there anything that comes currently at your mind with saying, if we get this solved, then you come from a 3 to a 2 and you from a 2 to a 1? Is there anything at the moment?
Yeah, so I think for us, few things. One is I think the content play is super important. We need the data and insights and the flexibility to do the storytelling a lot more on the platforms, right? Also from a content go live perspective, all the manual hacks that we do at this point of time, if you're able to solve that at scale, I think that's already a big win. The second is about the whole sustainable growth on some of these platforms, right? Especially we see from the kind of returns that we experience in these platforms, sometimes it doesn't become profitable to even operate. So we have to solve for that big measure, all right? The third thing that will happen is about innovations around fulfillment and the whole offline-online connect that will happen on the marketplace, right? And we're already seeing that in Zalando and the likes. So these are some of the big levers that will push the business forward on the marketplaces.
Thomas, anything to add?
I would say, first of all, the marketplace business will change like the next few years. Right now, everyone is turning their online shop into a marketplace, but I think that's not sustainable for the next 4 to 5 years. So there will only be like 2, 3, or 4 big players left, and then maybe some niche marketplaces, like one for sustainability, one for sports, etc. So I think for now, we are kind of trying to go on all the marketplaces, but as Jackson said, like if it's not profitable anymore, and like for a longer time, then we don't sell on that marketplace anymore and we shut it down. Then I think also the whole cross-channel. So for example, the customer doesn't care if he orders it on Zalando and then calls our customer service and we have to tell him, sorry, you cannot return it via our process. You have to call Zalando or write them. So the customer doesn't care. He just like wants to get help. So I think they're also on this whole part of like customer service or like order process and also the whole marketing side. So if you can direct customers from one channel to another, if you can put on ads from Zalando and direct them to e-com or the other way around, like going more to that whole cross-channel opportunity, that would be something. Then also, of course, data. I think that's one of the biggest topics. get all the data out of the marketplaces, get it out automatically, analyze it, and make decisions out of it. So that's going to be a huge issue. And then also putting data into the marketplaces as well. Like, if we have products live on Zalando, we cannot change them via Tradebyte anymore afterwards. So we have to fill out Google Sheets.
Not a Tradebyte issue, by the way.
Again, no, it's not a Tradebyte issue. But I think that's something, it's not 2022. So they can block it and make sure no one edits the contents, but there has to be a possibility to make it easier than to use manually Google Sheets. And then I think also people. Like, we are in the hiring process for new marketplace managers right now. And I think there's no one on the market anymore, or there's no one existing on the market. So I think you really need good people for the whole marketplace business that have kind of a diversified skill set, not only sales, not only technical, not only ads, but the whole skill set that you can really push the sales forward on all the marketplaces.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I mean, the data topic is obviously part of our heart as well, but what you just mentioned about hiring and getting right people in is very, very important. We are already at a very late stage, but nonetheless, we want to also give you the chance to ask any questions. So we'll have somebody with a microphone running around, but we also have, again, the option to ask questions via Slido, and there are already a couple of it in. So if you want, we can always do a split between one time micro and one time with the with Slido, if that's fine for you.
Yeah, of course. That's just like historical reasons. So we do not exclude it from our overall sales figures. It's just because we started on Amazon, we see it as a solo sales channel and not including into the alternative marketplaces. But if you put the Amazon sales numbers and the alternative marketplaces sales numbers together, that would be our marketplaces sales numbers, and then there's only e-com left. So.
I think the next question was for me. Yeah, I think in APAC, it's a very different market, right? So typically here in Europe, we think of it as a .com first market because we have such a strong .com presence. But in APAC, it was primarily been a marketplace first market. Like 80% of the business is on the marketplaces, and the marketplaces are fairly advanced in terms of data that they provide, in terms of marketing capability that exists on the platform, and the kind of dashboards and the intelligence that is provided. The fulfillment infrastructure that they provide and the kind of models with an offline-online connect is, I think, is further ahead of where we are at this particular stage. Also in terms of payment options that is provided to the consumers, right? I think a lot of learning can happen from some of those markets, and I think it's just a matter of time when some of these are already incorporated in the markets here. Yeah, I think this is, maybe I go for it first. Yeah, so differentiated pricing, yes, I think because we have a strong focus on bottom line, it is a factor of input of costs, right? And if certain marketplaces, the cost structure is prohibitively high, the kind of, the markdowns that is provided on the platform has to be also in line with that. So differentiated pricing exists.
For us, we kind of tested it for a short period of time. There are some marketplaces that set the price for you because that's in the contract, but most of the time they don't do it. But we have set the prices for the products all the same on the marketplaces, except kind of sales promotions, because for us, when the customer searches for it on Google, he just sees like, or she sees all the prices, and then she buys it just like from the cheapest one, so we set the price all for the same.
Yes, hi. The metaverse is currently a buzzword, a bit of a buzzword. What do you think is going to be the impact of that on the e-commerce side, and are your companies looking into how to leverage that?
That's a question.
I mean, I can start. We at Snocks, we had like this metaverse event also with like the Facebook Germany chief officer included. And we also try to test everything out, what's new. I think there's a big opportunity coming for the metaverse, not in selling physical products, but virtual products. I think that's more of an opportunity so that you can buy like PUMA sneakers or Snocks boxer shorts for your virtual avatar. I'm not sure right now how the selling of physical products would be feasible, but
Yeah, for us, at least from the e-com side of thing, it's not mainstream. There's a different team working on it. At some point of time, we see it converging. But for us, the focus right now is the .com and the marketplaces. But it is definitely someone else's priority at this point of time, right? Yeah.
First question.
I mean, for Amazon, I would definitely go for sponsored product ads. That's the first thing to do. There's also a lot of different opportunities, like going for sponsored brands, etc. But I would definitely try it. Amazon has like this nice keyword feature, so you can definitely be more granular in your campaigns. And for the second question, Galaxus, we don't have much marketing options. I would definitely try to like optimize the content. So optimize the content, look like all the product data is correct, that you can fill out as much information as possible, that your pictures are really looking good. And then I would also look at all the other important factors like delivery times, like is your competition faster than you? What are your ratings on the platform? Like, do you have any negative ratings? Can you improve on that?
For me, should I take the next question, which is the share? Yeah, for us, yeah, it's probably 60-40 between .com and marketplaces. And on the organic versus paid, paid is still a very, very small percentage at this point of time, maybe 20, 25%. All right.
Okay, we don't do wholesale, but the split between .com and marketplaces, if you include Amazon under the whole thing, then it would be like 50-50 split.
Deal with the removal of third-party cookies. This is more on PUMA.com side, right? Yeah, but this is something that we are preparing ourselves because we're moving into this whole cookieless world and the way we deal with attribution, etc. But I think this is more relevant on a .com perspective. Not sure who asked this, but we'll love to know how you link it to marketplaces because this is front and center for our .com solve in terms of our marketing effectiveness, etc. and stuff. And how do we alternatively solve for it now that our ability to track users is going to be limited, right? Yeah. What's the greatest challenge when you started off on the marketplaces? Yeah, I think for us, initially, it was about the tech infrastructure because I think we were fairly early 2015, 16. It was about the stability of the tech infrastructure, but now I think it's not a problem for us right now. What we are trying to solve for is profitable growth on these marketplaces and about expansion, going after the local heroes, etc. and stuff, right?
For me, I would say it was like all the different touching points, may be internal with like all the different departments, which you don't have in the picture at the first moment, but then also all like the external touch points, like the whole logistics part, etc. Because we didn't do that before on marketplaces. And for now, it's definitely also the data and tech side. As I said in the beginning, we have some tools we have to implement and also to get all the data into one system and use it accordingly. I would say it's you have to kind of have a feeling for numbers, so that whole kind of sales numbers thing. Then also a little bit really depends on how you set the roles of technical. So there's a lot of API from Tradebyte to our systems, from Tradebyte to the other systems. But that's not it. Then, as Stefan said, there's also SetDirect. There's some other tools for like how does finance get its data, etc. And then as a third part, I would also say kind of this project management skill set and also a little bit of creative as well, because you do a lot of like, how does it look like on the marketplaces? How do the advertisements look like?
Yeah, I think this is a good question, and I was reflecting on it. I think the three major skills that I would probably look for. One is a person has to be an online marketer, right? Second, has to have good merchandising skills because they're playing with product, and third has to have that growth hacker mentality because they need to find these opportunities on each of the marketplaces and leverage on that.
Yeah, maybe just to add on this, I think it's not a tech role ideally. I mean, this is historically we've had a lot of people where the techies have been working on the marketplaces, and the result is exactly what we were just discussing about. It's very much tech driven, but on the other, it is more a marketer role with a good understanding of numbers and also having the ability to be also sometimes flexible because there are always three parties at least involved, be it the brand, the retailer, and also an integrator in between, sometimes even more. So I think there you also need to have a good understanding of project management, otherwise you're lost. Perfect. And I can now get a super nice question. The favorite partner program market path. Super difficult question. I think it always depends a bit on the maturity and also on the setup of the brand. So on the one hand, if you just think about GMV, then obviously you think about the nicest marketplaces to work with are the big ones, like if you stay in fashion, Zalando, About You, depends a bit Otto, depends a bit on the assortment. But beyond that, I think there are also very attractive ones that have not just named have not been named today, like Limango Mitres, for instance. There, if I do it good, I can go quickly live in 3 to 4 weeks, while others have a onboarding process of 4 to 5 months. So it's hard to say what my favorite now is. It really depends a bit on the level of the brand, but also what are the capabilities behind and what's the product. But I like this kind of fast forward approach because this is exactly what marketplaces should also be about. Have the opportunity to just test some things and not invest too much into the integration. And brand-wise, obviously, I'm sitting with with two very interesting brands here on stage. But I mean, PUMA, Jackson, hopefully you will also understand this. But there's also another one in Herzogenaurach who is very much advanced when it comes to digital. So I think this is a very interesting setup. But also, yeah, this mixture of on the one hand the big ones that really are kind of 4 to 5 years ahead of the market, but also then a lot of challenges coming in, like Snocks, for instance, is a super interesting environment. I think this goes back again more to you, right?
I would say it really depends on what the marketplace offers you from a technical side. If they really don't support you or is like too restrictive and you cannot put in any more information, then it's, I would say, impossible. I think there are some exceptions for like when you have like a hybrid model of wholesaler and marketplace seller, then you get like a little bit more options if you have like an historic account. But otherwise, I would just put in as much information as it is possible. If they give you empty fields, put in the information and put in the correct information and just fill it out with anything like not correct one.
In the interest of time, I go to the next question. Choosing a marketplace, what aspects? So yeah, I think first is the strategic fit. Second is the growth potential and also the bottom line contribution. And third is the technical complexity and operational heavy lift, right? Yes, on social commerce, yeah, far and few in between. We are experimenting with a lot of stuff, primarily on the .com side, on the marketing side. But this is something that is definitely for the future. We will have to leverage every new opportunity that comes up because there's a lot of upward potential when something like this starts, right?
For us, it's interesting to use social commerce in terms of directing sales directly from social channels to our marketplaces, which is not what we are having on focus right now, but we are testing it out to see if it works, if we like put ads on like social channels of Zalando, About You, or use their influencers to direct the sales directly on the marketplaces. I mean, if you see all marketplaces, then it's Amazon for us, and if you see only the alternative one, then it would be Zalando.
Yeah, I think each of the marketplaces have their different set of problems and strengths. Very difficult to pick out one because they serve very, very different purposes. They are at different stages of evolution because the model is very different and very hard to pick one, right? Yeah. Want to add this? Conversion rate? You have conversion rate? Yeah. It's very tough. How long is the integration process? Yeah, so it depends upon the again the technical complexity and also the complexity at our end. So would be very different for each of you guys depending on the structure. Anywhere from I would say 3 to 6 months for us. Yeah.
I think if we are now onboarding new marketplaces and we onboard them through Tradebyte and everything is set and they don't have any other requirements that we already have in our data, I think we could be as fast as like up to 2 weeks, but then it's like an ideal process. And advice would be to have like your data and the content prepared. So have everything set up and also do a lot of steps like beforehand. Like if you know that you're onboarding a new channel in, let's say, Q4 this year, then talk to logistics, talk to your product, content team, etc., and just prepare everything you already can prepare beforehand. And then when it gets to the onboarding stage itself, it's much easier than if you just start back then.
And maybe to add on this, we differentiate in kind of 3 different integration types. So one is kind of the initial one, which is your first integration to a marketplace, which takes you 3-4 months sometimes. Then kind of the market extension, so especially if you think about Zalando or about you, where you can easily go into further countries. You don't need any further content translations, for instance. And this is what Thomas just mentioned. You can go live within 2 weeks, roughly. Depends a bit if it's ZFS integration, so where you don't have to do order testing, for instance, or if you really have to send also a parcel to an end consumer. And thirdly, kind of these standard integrations to the big other retailers, and they most of the time also take some like 2 to 3 months roughly. So it really depends a bit on the setup, but also on the channel you want to integrate.
That's also a tough question. I would say it really depends on the product and on the whole situation. I think it's hard to just answer it like overall. It depends, like if we have a sale somewhere, did we reach our goals on a certain sales channel already? But we are also trying to work on the fulfillment by merchant through our own logistics via Amazon, which is then like solving this problem, because you can go at like vice versa. So if you have stock in one warehouse and non-stock in the other warehouse, you can just fulfill it until you have like your stock issues solved.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me? Yeah, it was very interesting to hear that you use the same assets on every marketplace. Would it make not sense to use different assets on different marketplace because of the different type of audience? Like especially Snocks, I'm sure PUMA is doing it like, yeah.
Yeah, for us, we typically use the same kind of assets. We would ideally want to build assets which is marketplace specific, but we are not there at this point of time, right? Ideally, we would also want more flexibility in some of these marketplaces where we can build assets specifically for them, but still far away.
I think I would second that. Like in the long term, it definitely makes sense to do marketplace specific assets. As I said in the beginning, you have different like consumer target groups, and you would use different assets for like the older consumer base at Otto, or like the younger families in Lemango. But for now, if we're doing a lot of performance marketing on all channels, and if we do kind of this big sales event with more branding awareness campaigns, we just want to have like this big impact and play the same assets all over the channels. So it's more of a future thing. I would start, and I would say like just be bold and be fast. So the whole marketplace business, or like the new upcoming marketplaces, is still kind of like this untouched soil. There are a lot of brands on the marketplaces. There's also a lot of competition. But if you compare it to like e-com or Amazon, it's still like kind of this open playing field. You can test a lot. You can try out a lot of stuff. So if you're fast and if you're just like pushing things forward, you could definitely be one of the first. And then also just like talk to people, like exchange, talk to people. talk to me, talk to other brands selling on these marketplaces, and we are always open to exchange, talk about that stuff, because I think that's the most important part. Like if we had failures, we did, then you don't have to do it again. So I think that's really important.
No, we don't use it. There's a different team that uses it. Yeah, also. Yeah, for us, it's a very differentiated strategy. So depending upon the strength of the marketplace, the assortment would be very, very different. All right. Yeah.
I think for us, it's more like the marketplace itself. So it really depends on the marketplace. That's why we also stopped, for example, like selling on Real. I think it has now changed, but for the marketplaces we are currently now live on, I don't think it has an impact on the quality perception of the customer.
It's typically very difficult to do that because they have set structures, but yeah, you can always try. But what's very important is to get the marketplace skin in the game, because at the end, only if you are profitable, then you stay on the platform, right? So things like return rates, etc., can completely jeopardize the profitability of the platform. So you have to keep them involved, right, in solving some of the key matrices that's coming out of the platform, right? And otherwise, it's not sustainable, right?
Yeah, I think it's like maybe 1 or 2% or something, but it's more like the startup onboarding fees or like other fees. Like if you do campaigns on Zalando, you get like free budget if you spend a certain amount, etc. So there's always something you can do, but as Jackson said, it's not the commission that really is like the pain point.
Great. Then big thank you for. Is there still a question? Then is this. Sorry.
I'm sorry, only if you have time.
All good.
Okay. I just wanted to ask if either of you have cracked the code behind measuring the migration between marketplaces and web shop. I don't know if you figured it out by any chance.
We did it once. We did it actually once with a customer of us, and I think there was a 2 or 3% of the customer base has bought a product in the web shop, but also on marketplaces. And I mean, this is a significantly low number. I'm not sure how it looked on yours, but I think it was on ours. It was 2% that we checked.
Yeah, so for us, because of the limited data availability and the data protection kind of stuff, it's for us to actually find the key identifier between consumers is very tough. So we have some hypothesis on those numbers, very similar to what maybe early 10s, but yeah, I'm not sure. It's very difficult to track.
I have to admit it was before GDPR.
Now for us, it's like we're currently building all the data dashboard for the BI. And once we have the data in there, we are also trying to find it out. It's hard to find that identifier. We tried it before, like using first name, last name, postcode or something like that. But it's not always like 100% exact, but we're figuring it out.
Good. So is there any last question open? Or is it now? We also exceeded. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for staying with us for more than 1.5 hours. So 90 minutes, classical football match plus 5 minutes of additional time. Thanks a lot for joining us. Thank you a lot for all these questions. And thank you for joining me. Great. So if you have any further questions, we'll be here around, potentially grab something to drink. And if you want to have any other information around Tradebyte, the guys are here also tomorrow morning then for you, starting at 9 or so, to give you all insights you might need about marketplace business. Thank you.